Give it up for Gene Hammett.
Yeah.
It was 4 weeks before the Vancouver Olympics. Let me start again. It was 4 weeks before the Vancouver Olympics in 2010, specifically January 12th. I had rented this stunning apartment with an incredible view of the city. It should have been a dream trip. But instead, I was anxiously waiting for a business call to come in. It was my business partner who had paid $3 million to secure inventory for my clients. My business was sports tours. I started with $17,000, and over the next 10 years, I took it to over $40 million in revenue. The call finally came in. We caught up on a few things, and then he said, dropping a bomb on me, I have a problem. I knew as I hung up that something was terribly wrong. My wife knew it immediately. She walked in the room, and she saw the blood drain from my face. I began to tell her what was going on, holding back the tears. Eventually, she said, are we going to be okay? I didn't want to sugarcoat this. So I said it directly. I don't think so. My biggest fear was that she would leave me, taking our young son, but she didn't. She stayed. She helped me find my way back. David talked about the call. This was my call. That would change everything. The 17,000 tickets I expected that day never showed up. I lost everything. I lost the business. I lost my money. I lost my house. I lost my confidence. I lost my sense of identity as an entrepreneur. And it was heartbreaking. In the aftermath of things, after the legal shit, I began to reflect. How did I get here? It's a big question. I put my head down, I did the work to build this business. And then it hit me. That was the problem. I failed to evolve as a leader. Success breeds complacency. Here's the thing about self-awareness. That we look into the shadows of ourselves and we don't like what we see. So many of us avoid it. That's dangerous. I began to pick up the pieces of my life. I found my calling, my purpose, coaching ambitious CEOs. I've been doing that since 2012. And I really love what I'm doing. I've worked with a lot of Inc. 5000 level companies like David talked about. And it is an amazing place for me to give back, but also for them to give to me. And I share some of the concepts that have come out of these more than a decade of working with coaches that will help you. And it starts with this big idea. You can't scale your business without scaling yourself. We've all heard some version of this. Today, I'm going to invite you to look at this from a lens of leadership. I have been studying fast growth companies for over 10 years. My podcast has over 1,100 episodes. Over 800 of those are CEOs of fast growth companies, of studying what makes them tick, why they're different. It's been fascinating. I share that back with my clients, and I'm going to give you the number one tool today. That tool is kind of like a map. For your younger members here, maps are ancient tools we used before GPS. It's the 5 levels of leadership. As you go through this, I want you to think about, where do you spend most of your time? Which level? Shouldn't be too hard. It's where you spend most of your time. It feels like home to you, probably. The first one is the anti-leader. This is the micromanager. Their mindset is, I control everything because I know best. I won't go too much into this because we don't have any micromanagers here, do we? Okay. Transactional leader. This is the doer. This is the person who thinks they can do it better and faster, which is probably true. Founders are really good at doing work. You're really good at doing the things. But eventually, it leads to burnout, or you're the bottleneck of the business, and there's a breakdown. The next level is strategic leader. This is the big picture thinker. This is the person who their mindset is, I navigate change and plan for the future. This is very important in our businesses. We must wear this hat from time to time. But sometimes we get stuck there and we're not actually developing the leaders around us. And that's dangerous. If you make all the decisions, your team will eventually decide that your job is deciding, and their job is sitting back and watching. Doesn't really work. The next level of leadership is exceptional leader. This is where I think you want to put your eyes to. This is about being the people builder. Their mindset is, I develop others and build a strong team. If you notice, this is not about the work. This is about the people. That's where leadership really starts to shift. There is a level above this, but I will tell you it's very rare. But I had to name it because I start running into people who have gotten out of the day-to-day and built really kind of the dream business, the one that they don't even want to sell. But if they do want to sell, it would be the most valuable kind of business. That's the compound leader. I multiply my impact through the other successes. What this really means is they're building legacy. They don't think of it that way because they've dropped the ego. One more part of this, because you see the big gap, right? There's a gap between the work and the people, and that's called the leadership ravine. This is about the difficulty of work keep pulling you back in. And many times we don't even realize it. It's like the GPS that keeps it stuck on rerouting you back to work, 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 when you know you should be doing lead, lead, lead. I ask you a big question at the start of this. Where do you spend most of your time? I'm just kind of curious. Do we have any compound leaders here? Raise your hand. One. That tracks. I said it's rare. What about exceptional leaders? Be honest with yourselves. A few of those hands up. What about strategic leaders? Okay. What about transactional leaders? Honestly? Come on. I see this all the time. Here's some of the data. I've told you hundreds of CEO clients, lots of interviews. 83% will identify as a transactional leader. They're doing the work. It's not a bad thing. Founders are really good at doing the work. But it's not the highest leverage point, as you can see in this map. 11% are strategic leaders. 3% are exceptional. Less than 1%, a fraction of 1% are compound leaders. So kudos to Ethan for raising his hand. And 2% are anti-leaders. No one self-assesses themselves as a micromanager, let's be honest. But you can pick it up in their tone about how they want to tell everyone how to do things. That's not you guys, right? Let's put this in context. I had a client, Jeff. I've changed the name to protect the not so innocent. $10 million company, made the Inc. list, knew he could get to 20 million, but he was feeling burnout and he wasn't sure how to get there. We began to talk about his time. And I knew time was just a symptom, that there was something deeper than that. So I showed him this model of 5 levels of leadership and we discussed it. I didn't have to tell him anything. He said, I know exactly where I am. I'm a transactional leader. I said, why would you even say that? He goes, I spend most of my time head down in a computer. I love spreadsheets, accounts receivable, cash flow. I said, you're the CEO of a $10 million company. He goes, yeah. Oh, yeah, I do the 941 forms. Does anyone know what a 941 form is? Exactly. You shouldn't be doing it. But he was doing the 941 forms. Eventually, we had some honest conversations about letting go and about rising through this leadership levels. He did hire a VA, $8 an hour. He didn't think they could do the spreadsheet stuff, but 3 months later he goes, I got to be honest, they're better at it than me. They're not distracted. That's all they do. So we're on top of it. I said, well, how do you spend your time? He goes, I spend my time coaching my executives, meeting with key executives, and really having a vision for the business. As we know, being that exceptional leader is much more valuable than being a spreadsheet hero. Right? So how can you evolve from transactional leader, because that was the bulk of everyone today, I kind of foresaw it coming, I know the data, to being an exceptional leader? 3 steps. The first one is acknowledge your current leadership mindset. The way you think determines your actions. And if you don't think differently, you'll get the same results. If you want to change your leadership, you've got to be honest with yourself about where you are. If I asked you, what is your type of leadership? What's your mindset? Most people can't put that together. In fact, most leaders, train of thought would ramble on like a train with no caboose. So I'm going to give you a different question today. Who are you being that gets in the way of your exceptional leadership? I know it reads a little bit odd, but bear with me for a second, because this is one of the key questions inside my coaching. Who are you being that's getting in your way? Self-reflection is really hard. I've already mentioned this. My business crashed and burned because I wasn't willing to face who I was being. I put my head down and did the work. So who are you being? If you could write down a few words, put it in your phone, whatever you do, but if you can be really honest with yourself, I'm going to ask you not to ramble on, be as concise as possible, because there's power in that. It might not be something that is attractive, and it might even cause a little bit of shame. That's actually good. Exceptional leaders are willing to accept that reality and let it fuel them to move forward. One of the hardest parts of this step is something called a leadership blind spot. We all have them, no matter who you are. I have them. And when I address one, there's always another one behind it. And so your leadership blind spot, it's kind of like you not knowing your zipper's down, but your team does, and you don't find out about it till it's too late. Did you just check out my zipper? It's my biggest fear. But you've got to be willing to ask for help on that leadership blind spot, because you can't see it. Talk to a mentor, talk to a coach, talk to someone that's willing to hold you accountable, help you see what you can't see for yourself. And when you do that, you're really honest with yourself, you'll know you have it when you're ready to move away from it. It inspires you to move away from it. Step 2. This is a little bit easier, and the question that goes with this is, who are you becoming as a leader? When you're defining your ideal desired leadership mindset, you want to be clear about where you're going. This is the reason why we set goals. This is the reason why we have vision for a company. But this is from a lens of leadership. Who are you becoming at this point in your business? Again, don't ramble on, because it doesn't help. Here's an example from one of my clients. I sat down after a little bit of coaching and just conversation around this. She said, I want to be decisive, focused, and confident. I mean, you may think the CEOs are already these things, but she knew that something was playing in the background, and she was honest with herself and said, if I show up this way, I can be the leader I want to be. And that's the first step. Be willing to believe that you can do this. Define the specifics. It's not about getting it right. Just find a starting point. You could write down 3 words today that you know are part of your becoming. And it can fuel you forward today. Oh. Step 3, practice your way of becoming consistently. You don't do leadership, you practice it. In fact, being an exceptional leader is a practice, not a position. You practice over and over these new mindsets. Are you going to fail? Yes. But we get back up and you think about it. If you had that 3x5 card sitting next to you, you can stay in alignment just by looking at it and saying, that's who I am becoming. And eventually, you practice it enough, you'll be there. Let's talk about the practice. Practice empowering people around you. Yes, you could probably do it faster, but that's not the point. Practice holding people accountable. I talk to a lot of CEOs that are not willing to hold people accountable. I'm like, I don't understand. It's part of their growth and the growth of the team. Everyone's counting on this. Why not do this? Practice holding them accountable. Practice coaching people. Most CEOs think they're somewhat of a good coach. I ask them how to coach through a difficult situation. 99 times out of 100, they don't know how to coach someone to come up with their own ideas and use questions as a way to do that. But the more you do it, the more you practice it, the better you'll be. And the last part of this practice is people problems. Does anybody have people problems? A friend of mine told me the other day, it's usually the number 1 and 2 problems of our company is people. And you want to practice giving people feedback and doing it in an effective way. This is near and dear to my heart. It's our second book. Jason mentioned it earlier. I wrote a book with my wife, Amanda, called How to Have Tough Conversations. It's an incredible book, very tactical, but practice getting better at doing these things. You may be thinking that you can do this alone. You can, absolutely. But you can accelerate your way through this when you have someone hold you accountable to it and is willing to call you on your BS. Don't let your minds wander. That's your belief systems. When you do this, you are going to have a different experience because they won't let you lie to yourself. As an entrepreneur, it gets really hard to make those changes in your mindset. These are the 3 steps again. It works with any mindset shift, right? How am I currently? What do I want it to be? And then practicing it. If you think about it, that's the way we grow in any part of life. So I'm probably not telling you something you don't know, but I'm putting it in context of leadership today. We all have an inner critic. That inner critic, I don't say what I normally tell my clients, but that inner critic stands in your way. It stirs the pot of doubt and fear everywhere it can. It is logically programmed to stop you, to cause doubt. And we all have it. So I'm highlighting this today because know it's coming. There is resistance ahead of you when you try to make change. It's also easy to do this when it's smooth sailing, but we all are entrepreneurs. We know that that's not the reality. We're going to have headwinds. We're going to have some challenges in front of us. The storms are going to keep coming. And I'm reminding you to practice having that mindset of who you're becoming despite it not being easy. Today's presentation was really about this whole concept. You can't scale your business without scaling yourself. My hope is you take this message today and you let it impact you. Be honest with yourself. You're going to leave here today. Studies show that more than 50% of you have a to-do list that when you come in, you will just jump right into it, heads down. That's going to be great. But if you do that every day, day after day after day, you won't be the leader that you need to be. Because when you're working on the work, who is developing the people around you? Who is casting the vision when you have your head in those spreadsheets? I remind you today, you have a choice. You have a choice to just show up and do what you've always done. Be the transactional leader. Be the strategic leader. For some of you, the micromanager. But you don't have to accept that as your reality. You can actually change the way you look at yourself, your identity, your mindset, and who you're becoming. Transactional leader puts their nose to the grindstone and just keeps going. They keep things afloat, and it works for a while. But I just want to remind you, you have a choice. You can become an exceptional leader. Thank you.